Hey guys, what's up? So we're going to have a look today at the new Numeron cards. These are basically the number cards that are used by Don Thousand in his his duel between Yuya and Shark. He also used this against some other opponents, but we barely see him duel. Um, these are incredibly powerful, I would say, and actually, from the duels I've seen as well from them, quite difficult to beat. The first card is Numeron Wall. This is a level 1 Dark Fiend effect monster with 0 attack and 0 defense. You can only use the first name's effect once per turn. If you control no cards, or every card you control is named Numeron Wall, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or your side of the field to the graveyard to take one Numeron Network from your hand or deck and activate it. The second effect is, when you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, end the battle phase at the end of the damage step. So the first effect is actually the key effect. Numeron Network is an incredibly powerful card, and is basically your bread and butter combo to kind of kickstart this deck. If you don't have it, this not only searches from the hand or the deck, it instantly activates, which is quite rare for a card to have. Most cards that kind of search out a field spell, such as Terraforming, add it straight to the hand. By having this as a quick effect, it can be used on either turn. I also like the utility on the second effect. If you would, because as you'll see later on, Numeron Network has a bit of a negative effect as well. Whereas if it's not used properly, you kind of lose out on all your cards. So if you've got this in your hand, and that's actually happened to you, and you take battle damage, you can actually just end the battle phase, so you don't take any more damage for that turn. It gives you some time to kind of look into using other strategies if you need to. And I think that is the only actual specific non-Xyz monster for the deck as of now. So the first card is Chaos number 1. Numeron Chaos Gate Sunya. It's a rank 2 Dark Machine Xyz effect monster with 2000 attack and 1000 defense, and it requires 4 level 2 monsters. It also says you can also Xyz summon this card by using number 1 Numeron Gate Ikam you control as material, and you transfer its materials to this card. If this card is Xyz summoned, banish all monsters on the field. Once per turn during your next standby phase, after this card is banished, you can special summon this banished card, and if you control Numeron Network, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the total attack of all banished Xyz monsters. The point of this card is basically to burn your opponent for a lot of damage. This banishes all monsters on the field, so you can clear your opponent's cards as well. That's a very strong effect. I would say the only problem with this card is it relies on you controlling Numeron Network when it gets back onto the field. If your opponent has any sort of removal cards, they will be smart to kind of activate this before you get into the standby phase. Say, for example, they're in their main phase 2 or their end phase if they can. If it's been a couple of turns, so that you can't get this burn effect off. Essentially, if you can do that, this card is only a 2000 attack beater. That can be quite easily overrun with other cards. The destruction, the effect actually working on all of your Xyz monsters is also quite a good effect, because it doesn't rely on you just using these kind of Numeron cards. You can use any of the Xyz monsters you have. If you've got stronger ones, you could actually end your opponent. But that's just not the kind of game state that they're kind of looking for in this within this archetype. The second card is this is number 1 Numeron Gate Ecam, the one that the previous monster has to use kind of rank up from. It's got 1000 attack and 100 defense, and it requires 3 materials, 3 level 1 monsters. First effect is it cannot be destroyed by battle. Second effect is at the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card, double the attack of all Numeron monsters you control for the rest of the turn. Now, the summoning requirement of this card is a little bit tricky. If you were to just look at this card just offhand, I know with the Numeron network it is incredibly easy to bring this out and to bring out the other Xyz monsters, so that isn't an issue. If you were to bring it out without the Numeron network, I would say, there's no point in doing that. The first effect of not being destroyed by battle helps keep it protected. It gets its effect through attacking. So this kind of makes more sense to have battle protection as opposed to card effect protection. The ability to kind of double up all of the Numeron monsters you have on the field for the rest of the turn means they're jumping from 1000 attack to 2000 attack, and you will see how effective that is a little bit later on as well. So the second one is number 2, Numeron Gate Div. It's a rank 1 light machine Xyz effect monster with 1000 attack and 100 defense, and like Ecam, it requires 3 level 1 monsters. Again, it cannot be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card and double the attack of all Numeron monsters you control for the rest of the turn. It doesn't take a genius to see that these cards all have the same effect. The whole point of the deck is basically to just double up your monsters, so you go from 1000 to 2000, from 2000 to 4000, and from 4000 to 8000. You can get like 16,000 attack on all these monsters for like a final attack, so you can kind of one-shot your opponent, and that's the interactions of these cards. I'm not actually going to cover the other ones because they're the same effect. Trini, it's the exact same, and the same applies to Catvery. They all just do the same thing. This is the important card to cover. This is the Numeron network, the field spell. You can only use this card's name's first effect once per turn. During your main phase, you can send 1 Numeron normal spell that meets its activation conditions from your deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell card's effect when this card is activated. And 2 effects of Numeron Xyz monsters you control that activate by detaching Xyz material can also be activated without detaching material. Both of these effects are necessary because the next card that's going to come up is the reason you need the Numeron network to begin with. Being able to do this without any problems means that you can kind of search into everything. Is very cohesive in this deck. Everything has its purpose. They've actually kind of thought quite long and hard about the interactions of how this deck is going to run. This is that very, very deadly card that we're looking at. It's Numeron Calling. It's a normal spell, which says if Numeron Network is in your field zone and you control no monsters, special summon up to 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters with different names from your extra deck, but banish them during the end phase. Also, for the rest of the turn, you can only normal summon or special summon once. This is the card that you're triggering off of the Numeron network. You're able to summon all of your Numeron Gate Xyz monsters from 1 to 4. And obviously the second effect of the Numeron network to let them use their effects without you needing Xyz material means they can all kind of double up their attacks. If your opponent has a field kind of set up, then they're easily going to be kind of run over. Or if they don't know what these cards do and they have float effects which summon them, that's going to make these cards incredibly powerful. I would say the biggest downside of this deck is if your opponent is running a very defensive strategy. That is a considerable problem. I would also say that most of these cards are, well, they're all, as you can see, light attribute. I would see things like Light Imprisoning Mirror as kind of one of the biggest downsides of them. If you can stop their effects, or if you can stop the field spell, you've stopped the deck. There are cards just like Cosmic Cyclone, which can just get rid of the field spell immediately. Or even I would go as far as using a very old card called Wabuku, which provides battle and damage protection for a turn, are very easy outs to this. So as powerful as the strategy is, if you've set up your deck in a way which minimizes damage, I could see you surviving this. There are also some of these kind of banished dot decks that you can gain multiple, like over 10,000 life points every turn. If you can kind of generate that kind of life point advantage, you could get into a situation where you just have enough to kind of protect yourself for the turn. If you can kind of outlast the deck is susceptible to kind of staying power. It can't sustain itself for much more than the turn it's used. So I can see this deck being quite fleeting. As powerful as it is, that is a massive flaw in it. And I'm glad actually Konami designed that flaw. If it had just complete protection from everything, people would just complain it just being too broken. What do you think of this archetype? Is this something you consider running, or is this kind of a strategy you might just see in locals? Could you ever see it becoming a meta deck, or is it just too inconsistent for that? Leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.